Welcome to the workshop.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Workshop Podcast. My name is Bradley Shufi, and as always, I'm with my buddy Matt Collins.
Yes, sir.
And like we said last week, if you joined us last week, that this week would look a little bit different as we are almost to the conclusion of our first season of our podcast that we're calling Unqualified Experience. We do a blog called Unqualified Information, so we decided to name the podcast platform Unqualified Experience, and we're almost done with the first season, that is the workshop. And so as we're getting ready for that season finale, this week's gonna look a little bit different, and what I'm deciding to title this one is called Defining Experiences. So defining moments in my life, Matt's life, that really kind of changed the trajectory of kind of where we're at today. I know Matt's story pretty well, and so I think he has a lot of different ways that he's kind of pivoted and learned and grown, and same with me. And so, first I think let's just kind of catch up. Matt, what have you been up to since the last episode?
Perfect. My week started out. My car has been it's an old car, good old Vicky. She's a Crown Vic.
Yes, sir.
Very old. And, so my radiator broke officially. And so we're like, all right, we got to replace it. So I was out of a car for like 5 days. And it just brought me back to the old days. And I was like, this sucks.
It's horrible. It's terrible, isn't it?
You take advantage of, or you take for granted, like, what you have.
Yeah.
I always complain about her because she's old and she's old and just looks ugly, and I'm like, man, dude, why did I drive this stupid car around? And then I couldn't drive her, and I was like, I'm kind of thankful for you, because not having a car and having to ask for rides or for people, it's like, man, it sucks. And so, thankfully, I have some really great friends. I have a really great family who has obviously helped me out a lot, but it's like, man, that sucks. And so, pretty much just been dealing with that, and it's not too bad. I had coffee this morning with just one of my really good friends, and I got to hear his story, got to share a bit about my story. So it's cool that we're doing this today. It's just thinking about I already kind of had a preview of this. And again, these are all unscripted, so I don't ever get to to look at what happens. But and even this one, it's just off the cuff. And so I'm excited for what's going to happen this week, and I'm excited for what's going to happen next week. But you guys will see that next week. So.
Yeah, we'll get more into that later. But and luckily enough, with your car, your dad is kind of like a fix everything type of guy. So that's pretty nice. But I've recently got back into working out, and it's been fun, but definitely tough on the old muscles. I think I started on Tuesday. So recording this on a Friday, I got back into it on Tuesday, and just trying to reactivate muscles. I mean, I was pretty active in college, whether I was, playing basketball or, actually working out, running. And now that I'm out of college, I've realized I need to start doing some athletic activity and not sitting on my butt all day. But that's been, it's been interesting, and hopefully that I can get back into it and really kind of go full out and maybe get back to in shape the way I used to be. But I'm really sore right now. My left arm, I can't even extend all the way. But it is what it is.
Jacked, so.
Yeah, and they say your first 2 weeks of working out is when you see the most improvement, and then the next 3 months it's nothing. You're working to that next milestone. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not trying to be this cut guy and post pictures on Instagram. I'm really just trying to like get active. You know, I
what
think
he's
it's
really trying
important.
to do is get his wedding bod in.
That is true. You know,
His
got to get that wedding
coming
bod.
up in about 7 months, 8 months.
Yeah, really got to get into shape for that because you know, James, she's gonna post some pictures of me on the beach, and I can't already have a dad bod without being a dad. You know, even though everyone always says I'm a dad, and I'm always like the dad of the group, and that's just because I think I'm just like the coolest. You know, I'm the best dressed. Yeah. I can grill anything. I look good while grilling. Yeah. I like Coors Light beer. I do like it, but I don't love it. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. Just beer's not that good. Let's be honest. It's just not that good. Yeah. Before I was 21, and I would see my parents drink. My dad would have, I don't even know, a Yingling is what it's called, and it's like fancy. I'd be like, oh, I can't, like, I want to try it. But before I was 21, I was like a goody. So part of like and we'll probably get in this, part of my like to find, like, I didn't drink until 6 months before I turned 21. I had a Mike's Hard Lemonade. Thought I was going to go to hell immediately. I was like, I'm done. I'm done here. But when I turned 21, we were like, oh, try this beer. And it was horrible. I was like, I gagged at every sip. It was terrible. I don't know how people drink it. And then I guess it really is an acquired taste. I would tell you this, and like this is a defining moment. When I started liking coffee, I started enjoying beer. Isn't that weird? Because they say coffee is an acquired taste. Yeah. And I started liking beer, and I was probably about 22 at the time. So a full year of being able to legally drink is when I actually started liking beer. But I don't know why I'm getting into this.
It's a weird tangent, but
I haven't drank beer in a while, and I probably won't ever change that. Yeah,
you've been working out. It's been great.
Getting back to working out. It's been fun. But hey, like, this is going to be different. We usually do like a snack of the day. Matt and I already chose our snack of the day. We had some cheddar Chex Mix before.
We actually got to eat it this time.
We did eat. Talk about it. We did eat. I've been really bad the last few days. I don't usually eat until about 2 in the afternoon. Like, I'll hop on work and I'll just get after it. I'll drink an energy drink in the morning and just get after it. And by the time it's 2 o'clock, I'm like, I haven't eaten today. Well, the last couple of days when I've been working out in the afternoons, I don't eat beforehand and I feel terrible. My body hurts extra afterwards. And so I'm trying to really get back into making sure I eat because I guess that's important.
We had a peanut butter and strawberry
jam that my grandmother made. Yeah. It's the best. I might have to start making money off of her because it was great. I don't know if you loved it, but I love it.
It was my parents like grape jelly. I'm a big fan of strawberry.
I like strawberry jelly,
time. And not just strawberry, but that was homemade and it was incredible.
Yeah, it was good. I remember I was over there during the summer. I was moving Jamie, my fiance, into her classroom. And this grandma that made the jelly, she's like a pro teacher, like the best teacher. She works for an organization that teaches teachers. Anyways, I was getting some stuff from her, and she sent me home with some jam and jelly. And I'm not a big, like, I love PB&Js, but like I don't eat them all the time anymore. But I got some toast. I put some of her strawberry jam, and I was hooked, dude. It was like a drug. Oh yeah. It was so good. So I might have to start making money off of her just because it was incredible. But yeah, so we're not going to do Bamboozled. We're not going to bring a tool today. We're just going to kind of talk about kind of our lives and stories and just we'll go back and forth on some defining moments. I'll go ahead and start here. Just kind of just a preamble about who I am. I grew up in a really great family. I tell everybody when I start giving like my testimony or my story, I was born, I think it was a Thursday. Anyways, the following, whatever day I was born, the following Sunday I was in church, you know? So I've basically been in church my entire life. And that is probably the biggest defining part of my life is just being around that environment and that influence. And Matt and I always say that this may not necessarily be a Christian podcast, but that's really in our foundation about how we understand leadership, how we understand growth and development is through that influence of Christ in our lives and or the teachings from the Bible. And so that's why I bring that up. And kind of like the biggest defining moment of my life and where I kind of started was this influence of church in my life. And I will say that not everybody in that church, or not everybody that does go to church, is a great influence or was a great influence to me. But the idea of going to church as a young kid and up to now has really helped me have this perspective, that word we always talk about, this perspective of life that's been positive and helped me and shaped me. So that's kind of like the first defining piece in my life was, really as far as I can remember, I've been in church and I've had that influence. And I'll kind of like stop there, and Matt, I'll kind of let you jump in. This is, whatever defining pieces. We're going to go through like 3 or 4 different pieces.
So little pretext about me. I'm also from this area. I went to Broken Arrow my whole life. My dad graduated from Broken Arrow. And so super cool moment, but I'd say my defining moment, I actually didn't grow up in the church. I grew up Catholic technically. However, I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew that you did stuff and that you were supposed to go to church. I thought the priest was supposed to pray, was supposed to read the Bible, and it just kind of regurgitated it to me. Like, I didn't actually know. So I actually didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up going to church, but we grew up in Oklahoma, so you like know of God, but I didn't really know God. It's like, like I know LeBron James, like, I know of him. You say LeBron James, I'm going to know who you're talking about. But, if I don't really know LeBron James, like I don't know when LeBron James' birthday is. I don't know. Like I don't spend time.
November 14th.
Is it really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, bro, that's crazy.
Imagine.
But I was like, I don't spend time with LeBron James. I don't hang out at his house, But like,
right.
If you ask me who LeBron James is, I'm gonna say, yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of those defining moments for me was football. So instead of taking church as my defining moment, as like, I was in the church. I've been playing sports my whole life.
Yeah.
Sports to me has been was my foundation. It was my we talk about perspective. We talk about like obviously now I'm a believer and I spend a lot of time in the church, but I had spent 6 to 7 days a week doing my craft, playing football, or if I wasn't playing football, I was on the basketball courts. I was at the softball fields, at the baseball fields. I was doing whatever I can to surround myself with sports.
Right.
And so to me, that was a big part of my identity. Was when I started playing sports, when I started being involved with sports, and to this day I still love sports. But like now, it definitely has shaped me into the man I am today. But it's not like the most important thing. Like I love me a good old Oklahoma State game. I love watching the Texans play or the Astros. Hopefully they make it in the playoffs, or further in the playoffs. But stuff like that. That's like, man, that's been easily my I would say the first defining moment.
Yeah, in sports, and that's kind of the direction I'm moving in. So I also grew up playing sports. Matt football was like your main sport. Baseball was my main sport. And baseball to me is more of a mental game than an athletic game, right? And so in football, if you have, a quick running back, your offense already has that upper head or they have that, that advantage, so to speak. In baseball, you kind of look at, if you have a pitcher who throws faster, if you have that leadoff batter who's quick, that's an advantage. But in a way, baseball is so mental. You have to think through situations in your head before they happen. So if you're on second base, you have to think, well, if this ball comes to me, where am I going? I'm going to first base, second base, and it's just you're constantly thinking, and it's less athletic to me than other sports. And so what I really got through that and growing up and playing baseball is I really got to focus on like the analytics of the game, so to speak. And I was less of like having to be in the gym, right? And more of consuming baseball, if I wasn't at practice or playing on the weekends, I was watching MLB games with my dad, and he would give these coachable moments of like, this happens, and yeah, that it happens in other sports, and there's you can really practice analytics in other sports, but to me in baseball, I just really I developed this sense of like being able to analyze and evaluate situations. And so when I left baseball in eighth grade was the last year I played. I didn't play in high school, and I moved to band, which to me was awesome because I loved making music, and I was a drummer, so I was the cooler part of being in the band. I know Matt has some opinions on that, but
I'll share that next part.
I really enjoyed being in band because the school we went to, Broken Arrow, is known for marching band nationwide. In fact, my freshman year we won a national championship, and my sophomore and senior year we got second, and we competed at a really high level, which in order to do that we had to do stuff that no one was doing. So it was, and during those high school years, secularly speaking, I really practiced discipline, hard work, and learned what work ethic was, learned some responsibility some extra responsibility that I didn't understand outside of band and marching band and all that. So I had to stop playing sports, but I was still being able to use stuff I learned in sports. So I guess for me, my second defining moment was, having to leave something I loved, which was baseball, because I didn't hit puberty until I was in high school, and so I was smaller than everybody, 8th grade. There was a guy, him, and I won't say his name, but he had a beard in 8th grade and was bigger than everyone else on the team. Austin Wilson, that is. Yeah. I guess I'll say his name. He's probably not going to listen, but he had a beard in 8th grade, and I was like 110 pounds soaking wet, and I couldn't make the throws you had to do when you left 8th grade to go to 9th grade. I couldn't compete, and so I went to something else and learned how to compete that way. And so yeah, that's probably my second defining moment was, leaving something I loved, but the thing I came into, it still taught me a lot, and I still use some of those same characteristics I learned in band today, really.
And it's funny because Bradley and I went to the same high school. Bradley was part of the greatest band in America.
They say, wait, what do they say? They say, greatest band in all the land. That's what they say.
Greatest band in all the land.
Yeah. They say that at like football games when we come out.
Yeah, they are incredible, and like hindsight's always 20/20. So, for those of you who don't know, Bradley and I have not always been. It's
in Matt's view.
So, my next defining moment was the day I gave my life to Christ. There's moments that happened before that, but obviously my identity was wrapped into sports and football, and I was a really good football player. And so, just a quick little story. I started for 3 years at Broken Arrow, which is amazing. It was unheard of at the time. I was thankful. I was blessed, but in my head, I was a king, and everybody. At least in my head, I felt like I was a king. And a lot of people, I felt like, knew who I was, knew Matt Collins. Like, when I came into the room, like, you just know it. And that's, hopefully you don't hear that as, like, cocky or confident, just kind of a pre-story, a backstory of who I was. And so when I had met Jesus, it was my freshman year at college. And I remember Terry Acuna setting us up with co-counselors. And I remember Bradley Shufi, my lovely friend here sitting next to me, and I got paired together, and I was pissed. And to give you a little backstory why I was pissed, Bradley was in the band, right? He just talked about it. I just told you it was the greatest band. I played football, and as much as like Bradley talks about it being cool, it was cool for a lot of people. But for the football players, for most of them, some of them were cool with them. For the most part, I had thought, hey, we gotta be mean to these people. And I would give Bradley the hardest time about everything. And to me, it was bullying because hindsight's always 2020. I did not like Bradley as a person. I thought he was a goody two shoes, like he said. I thought he was this good Christian boy. I thought nothing bad had ever happened to him, and I had truthfully just been a huge jerk to him every chance I could because I was jealous. I was jealous that he had such a good life. And I mean, nobody's perfect and nobody has a perfect life. Even if you have like a great family, like everybody struggles with something. And I remember being pissed that me and Bradley got paired together. And, later on in life, I talked to Bradley about it and I was like, dude, like, I'm sorry I bullied you throughout high school. And Bradley, the funniest part is he said, wait, what? He said, I thought that's just what we did. I thought we were friends. And it was funny. It's funny now, but in the moment, I remember it like breaking my heart because like Bradley he didn't even notice. And so when I met Jesus, all right, I was living for all the wrong reasons. I had lived for the next big high, whatever I could do, either when it came to drugs, alcohol, or women, whatever I could do to kind of numb some of the pain that I went through as a child and went through in my early adolescent years. And so when I had finally met Jesus, I never really had a male in my life who actually cared about me, or at least from my perspective, my vision. I never saw a male who had loved and cared about me and who had kind of liked me for me. They only cared about what I could do for them, what performance I could bring for them, what they gained out of me. And Bradley was the first person in my entire life who had ever shown me love, grace, mercy. And Bradley, he's a realist. So he did it in a loving way, a caring way, but he also did it in a real way, in an authentic way. Bradley would tell me things about my life, that the way I was living, that I would just, I don't know, it just changed my life. I remember people have been telling me for years that, because like we're from Oklahoma, like we talk about like of Jesus, but you don't really like, some people don't know Jesus, and that's what I was. I'd tell people I was a Christian because I wasn't anything else, and so people my whole life have been telling me, hey, like you're not a Christian. And I just kind of shrug it off and ignore them. And then I remember sitting in Bradley Shufi's dorm room about 11 or 12 at night.
It was always late at night every time we'd hang out.
Yeah, it was, super late. He would let me. So, little pre-story. Sorry, Bradley would come pick me up when I was blackout drunk, walking around Stillwater. He would come check on me. He would text me. He would make sure I was going to church. He was, usually my ride. He would always be that guy who would make sure that I was going to church. I was involved, and not that I just went to church, but I was also striving in church. That I was making the best effort, even though like I wasn't really a believer. I like would tell people I was, and he made sure that like if I came to church, that I was coming to church for excellence. And Bradley, again, didn't care about my performance. He just loved me. He just loved me for who I was, for a big, goofy, guy. And like we were co-counselors together, so we were leading a group together. And he actually cared about what I had to say. He wasn't just like, hey, like, let me do this. Like this. He actually like wanted me to step up. And through that leadership and through that those talks, I really understood how deep of a friend that I had, even though I wasn't looking for one. And so I remember it being late at night, and Bradley had told me something that so many people had told me before. And he said, Matt, the reason that you feel like this is because you're not really a Christian and you don't actually have a relationship with Jesus. And I remember being like, dude, I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know what that's supposed to look like. And I remember us praying the prayer of salvation. I remember me coming to Jesus in that moment. And I'll pause on that part, but that's the next big defining moment. And so,
yeah, well, now I feel like just tooting my horn. But yeah, no, like that. And so, yeah, like then we're just kind of going through like our life stories. And so, yeah, like now we're in college. So before I went to college, I really, really struggled going to college, because before college, this was about May, and so I was supposed to go to college in August. Before May, I I was headed to OSU to become an architect, and Matt, same way. That's why he kind of chose OSU architecture. And I was heading to OSU, but about the end of May, right before I graduated, I had this, pull strings on my heart that I was like supposed to not go to college and just work at the church we go to, Life Church. I was like, I thought I was destined to do this, and I thought that I didn't have to go, and I would be saving my parents a lot of money and saving my parents from this burden of me going to college. And I argued with my parents for about a week about it, yelling, I'm screaming, I'm crying, because I didn't want to go, because I was like, I think this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. And so the defining moment I want to talk about is actually me going to college, okay? Because college was the most important part of my entire life, because pre-college, my parents groomed me and raised me to be this church boy, which was the nickname that a lot of people gave me in high school. Yeah. And I didn't like it at first, but then I was like, how cool is that people recognize that about my life? And so prior to my senior year in high school, I hated that. And then when I got to senior year, I was like, this is important. And so, so now I'm heading to college, leaving this high school self behind, who was this seemingly perfect church boy that everyone used to call, and I'm leaving that person who I would say my best friends in high school. So we a couple weeks ago we talked about this quote about, or this thing about, show me your 5 friends, I'll show you your future. Which is crazy to me, because my 5 best friends in high school, one was a really outspoken atheist, one was an agnostic, which I just explain as they believe there might be a God, but they just don't give a crap, One was a preacher's kid who was the complete opposite of what a preacher's kid should act like. And the 2 other were just kind of lost, but not even Christians. One was a Mormon, in fact. But so those are my 5 best friends in leaving high school. And if you were to look at those 5 friends, my future would seemingly be I would become an unbeliever. I would join a cult that is Mormonism. I wouldn't be living kind of the life I had. But when I got to college, I joined a Christian fraternity, and so those 5 friends that I had that weren't necessarily solid believers, I left that group behind and just gained like 60 strong male Christians in college, and some of them less stronger than the others as far as faith goes. But when I joined this group, this fraternity, I got exactly what I wanted. See, I'm the oldest of 2 other siblings, and so for the majority of my life, I was kind of the example. Like, I had to be the example in my family, and I didn't really of course I look up to my dad 100%, but I was really looking for like an older brother, and I got that in college through Bucks, this fraternity that I joined. And so the defining moment of going to college for me is so important, because I didn't want to go, but when I got there, so many opportunities were presented to me to grow and develop. Like Matt said, we joined the Life Church in Stillwater under the incredible leadership of the youth pastor at the time, Terry Acuna, who guided us subliminally to really where we are today and the roles we have today. Really, Terry really pushed us to do that, just kind of subliminally. Like, we didn't understand, but he was really putting these puzzle pieces together so that now we can interact in our church homes now, which are Life Churches, but now in Tulsa. And so that was really cool. And I didn't even want to go to college, but as soon as I got to college, I got to join the fraternity. And then I also, I guess, got the opportunity that Matt's talking about, his defining moment. Man, if I didn't even go to college, we wouldn't even be sitting next to each other, And so I guess, looking back, how important it is my parents really pushing me to go to college, because in all reality, it changed my life. In college, I met the love of my life, Jamie, and we'll probably continue to get to that. But if I didn't go to college, this thing wouldn't be happening, And so defining moment number 3 for me, just kind of going to college.
And I think that like exactly what Bradley just said about, like, if he didn't go to college, if he didn't, and we're not saying like, hey, you have to go to college, that's where your life is at. But like for Bradley, like his moment, if he didn't step up and go to college, like, I would not be one alive. The decisions I was making realistically, like there's no way that I would have made it through. And the fact that we're here today, and the fact again the amazing leadership of Terry Acuna, and the fact that he put two seemingly like nowhere we should be together on the outside, and the way obviously there's no coincidences, and we credit it to the amazing God that we have, and but so
we probably need to throw Ben in here because for both of us, Ben was that like link we needed, you know. So Ben Levy, shout out to Ben Levy. You were pretty important to this whole thing too. Yeah. So, but anyways,
don't want to forget to Ben. Ben, yeah, for sure. Ben was Bradley's roommate, and I know Ben was he was a landscape architecture, and he tried to. He had many moments where he was trying to sleep, and I busted into the door. You were there. I slept on their floor for so many.
The second semester, I remember that.
Dude was awesome. Ben, sorry, I didn't mean to forget you. You're incredible, and I love you. But my next defining moment, to get to that one, would be leaving OSU. So Bradley's was going to OSU. I still finished out my career somewhere else, but mine was leaving OSU and eventually attending Evangel. I went to Kanakuk before that, so just a little thing. Kanakuk was an amazing experience, and it really propelled me into my faith. But I didn't play football at Oklahoma State. I took a year off where I lost a lot of weight. I started, again, living for the world, and then I had met Jesus. And so I got an opportunity to go play football in Springfield, Missouri at Evangel University, and to play offensive line at the good 6'2", 230, 240 was around how much I weighed, which is, for those of you who don't know, that's very, very small for an O-lineman.
It's a little small, yeah.
And I got to play, and like thankfully in my career, I got to play in almost every single game that we've had or that I was a part of. I've missed, I want to say 4 or 5 games total. Where I didn't get any playing time at all. I at least played in every single game. And so it was an amazing, we won a conference championship. For 3 of the 4 years, we're in the top 25 in the nation. And so my next key defining moment was leaving OSU, because then it really challenged my faith. Bradley talks about it. He was growing up. He grew up in a Christian home, and he went to a Christian fraternity, and he had all of this, these moments where he got to really get defined and get poured into by Christian leaders, and but doing this at a secular university, and I'm sure Bradley will mention some of that, but it's such a opposite experience for me. I didn't grow up in the church. I had to learn about Jesus, and thankfully I got to do that at a Christian university. The only problem was, just because it's a Christian university doesn't mean everybody's a Christian. So I was learning about what it meant to be a follower of Christ with some really good examples, a lot of really good examples, and also a lot of really bad examples. And so I got to see both sides of the coin of, okay, there's some good people and there's some really bad people who both claim to know Christ. And so I got to see a lot of extremists, a lot of people who, hey, it's this way or the highway. And so, again, not to get too much into it, which will probably be the next one, but I learned so much just by leaving OSU. Like my next defining moment was this ability to go to a place that was going to help me learn more about the Bible and about who I am and my identity in Christ. And so,
yeah, that's and I got to witness that kind of firsthand, so just a little timetable. So Matt, you gave your life to Christ, I think it was like November-ish?
October 25th.
That's right, October 25th. That's my sister's birthday, I remember that. And then second semester, you joined Bucks, and we spent a lot of time just talking and working through things. You didn't understand why, some Christians would act this way, and we stay up to 4 a.m. We'd really work through this, and then you were gone after that semester. And so I needed that. I had all of this stuff that I needed to pour out, and you gave me that opportunity. And when you left that summer, I moved to Ohio for the summer and worked for this Christian leadership organization. and which was great. I tell people it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and the most positive producing thing I've ever done that I will never do again. Because it was hard. I was by myself in Ohio and no family near, but it was a really great experience that I never want to experience again. And so when I came back to OSU, my sophomore and my junior year, and even my senior year and my second time at being a senior, I got to be a leader in this Christian fraternity. And so the next defining moment to me in my life was being a leader in the fraternity and having my best friends turn their back on me. And so in my time, I was a junior, second semester junior, first semester senior. Year of 2018, I was president of the Bucks fraternity, and I had given a lot into the fraternity. I probably shouldn't say this, but I really kind of changed OSU Bucks. Just the things I wanted to do, the things I did do. And because of that, people don't love change. I don't necessarily love change myself, but a lot of people don't like change. And I changed a lot of stuff. And I had people that were in the fraternity that were my close friends just kind of turn their back on me. And in that moment, or those moments altogether, for the first time in my life, I had to learn what it means to lean on God. Because to be real with you, my entire life I've been able to lean on people. I've been able to, talk to my church leaders, talk to my parents, talk to the people around me, and I never had to really lean on God. My family, we experienced like a few like tragedies, like our house got hit by a tornado. We've lost. My mom's sister went through a lot of health issues. She ended up needing an organ transplant. Like we've been through some stuff, but our foundation was there that it really didn't affect us. So I really never had to lean on God until my friends turned their back on me. And so I was a senior in college, so 22, turning 23, was the first time in my life I had to learn what it means to lean on God and be independent. For a lot of those days, I had $6 in my bank account. I was stressed about money. I was stressed about school. And then when I needed my friends the most, they'd turn their back on me. And then I learned the importance of an actual relationship with God, because, for my whole life I had been pretty complacent when it came to that relationship. Not that I didn't pray, not that I didn't study the Bible, not that I didn't go to church. I did have like a pretty good relationship, but behind the scenes, alone, I didn't have it. And so I learned to understand the strength that we actually have when we look at it. And I'm not talking about physical strength. I mean like gut-wrenching, emotional, cognitive strength that people have inside of them that they really never tap into. For a lot of nights, I'd go to bed crying, and I would get up the next day and then realize, what? I'm leading a group of people. This is a new day. Let's go tackle this day. And in that whole experience, I developed this heart for entrepreneurship. And what that basically means to me is seeing the potential. Matt seems to think I always see the potential in people. And maybe that's just my personality or something, but I really developed in this time of kind of like brokenness. Because in that same season, I broke up with this girl that I shouldn't have been dating, but I dated for like 3 years, I think. Something like that. I don't know. I dated her for like a long time. In that season, we had broken up. I had been leading this fraternity, and I was just broken all the time. But I've developed this sense of really looking at situations, people, and this idea of potential and trying to make the best out of everything. And I also developed this motto from the great Will Rogers, one of the most famous Oklahomans of all time. He had this quote that said, "I never met a man I didn't like." And in my latter years of college, I developed this motto, and I want to live like this forever, of this idea of I never met a man I didn't like. And that doesn't mean that you can't like people. It's that you give people the opportunity to like them. And so that would be a pretty good defining moment for me. And kind of one of my last until we like reach to now is that, I needed in my life a time to be broken, a time to be back against the wall and see what would happen. And which was cool. Tough, not gonna lie, very tough part of my life, but very cool moment that I got to have my back against the wall and see what would happen. And it was fight or flight, and I really chose to fight, and I really chose to push the people around me in the fraternity specifically to make Bucks great, because it really wasn't. It wasn't in a great place, and I pushed the people around me. I pushed, and I had so much pushback, but I wasn't going to give up. And so to find a moment for me, and one of my last ones is even through like my most broken time, even through my probably the hardest couple years in my life to date, is that I learned, what's inside of me and really who's behind me. And I'm going to say that's God, and learned how in real time, how to learn like what it meant to even like trust God, because, a lot of the times you don't hear from the guy, but I got to see what he was doing. I got to listen, even though he wasn't physically speaking to me. I got to listen to what he was doing in my life, and put those broken pieces together, and realize that, these friends that kind of what quote unquote would turn their back on me, that, I need to look for friends elsewhere who are going to have my back no matter what. And so, I think that was a little bit of a tangent, but
no, that's awesome. And I remember this season that Bradley was in, and we would FaceTime, or we'd call each other once or twice a week, and he would tell me about this brokenness that he's feeling within this fraternity. And I remember this distance that we used to, like, again, I used to be at his dorm, like, every day, every night. We would spend way too long. We would, together, just, he was really just sharing life with me. And so when I left, and when I went to Evangel in Springfield, I was roughly 4 hours away. Mm-hmm. So distance was key, and it was really... it
was like a long distance. Like we would see each other on holidays. Yeah, it was like a long distance relationship. That's so funny.
And so we would spend time, doing whatever we could, texting each other, and like it was definitely like a different season. And so what I've thought has been funny is in these defining moments, Bradley has one, and I seem to have the same one, but opposite. So Bradley really learned what it was like to lean on God. So in this season, I had been, my next defining moment, which I'll come up, but I had been leaning on God since I fell in love, met that relationship with Jesus. I really was leaning on God. That was it. It was me, myself, and I, and God. And that was it. It was just me and God against the world. And that's great, and that's amazing, but it really developed a sense of selfishness in me. I really could only see perspective from my eyes, from how I was feeling, what emotions I was going through. I could only see my view. And every time I'd pray to God, I would be like, all right, God, like, I would be like a good person. I'd be praying for other people, but it was like through a selfish lens. It was through a lens of just me. And so I had Bradley. I knew he was in my corner, but he wasn't physically there. And so I felt like it was just me and God. And so I started a relationship with an amazing, wonderful woman. However, it was a terrible relationship for us. We really had both separate issues, and we kind of clung to those together, and we kind of spent both of like our time together as like a way to kind of depend on each other. Like we needed each other instead of anything else. And so I started leaning more towards her and her, and so I finally started opening up. Instead of it just being me, myself, and God, it was me, myself, God, and her. And so it was this moment of just like, okay, like we could do this, we could get through this, and whatever happened, whatever, it was us against the world. It was us three against whatever is going to go on. And we had broken up like every 3 months. We did it for 3 years, and like it was like a cycle: 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months on, or 3 months on, and then we'd spend a couple of days off, and then we'd go back for another 3 months, and we'd break up. And it was this toxic cycle of like never feeling like, hey, this is a solid thing. This is a good approach for us. This is a time where we're going to be able to spend together. It wasn't like edifying at all. It was just us tearing each other down and finding ways where we could both slip back in and say, hey, like this is good. And she is an amazing person, a wonderful like woman. She has amazing goals and characteristics. However, us together just was not good. And so one of these times I was going through one of the hardest seasons of my entire life. I had basically lost football, which was my identity. I was still playing, but I wasn't playing nearly as much. And I went from being a starter to being somebody's backup and still getting to play, but not getting to play as much. I had a hernia after working my hardest I had ever worked during an off season. And so I basically had to start over right before season started. And then midway through season, I ended up finding out that I had a tumor on a place that, I mean, you shouldn't have a tumor anywhere, but I had a tumor in a horrible location. And so I was like, me thinking that tumor equals cancer, I was like, that's it. Like, I'm too young to get cancer, God. Like, you can't do this to me. And through this season, me and Hannah ended up breaking up, and we ended up splitting up in this season at pretty much the same time when I had lost football. I had found out about this tumor, and I kind of just had a broken plate. And I decided to make a decision that is hard to talk about, but is a decision that would ultimately almost take my life. And I remember blacking out and waking up and being like, what the heck? And being the person that I had to like call the police to come help. And like, I mean, if you guys want to hear about the story, you can later. But basically, like, I had made this decision that would ultimately end up, wrecking me, and thinking like, hey, I got to the rock bottom. And I remember coming out of this season and coming back, the first day I get to see my phone, I have over 100 different text messages. I'm not saying that this is like, oh, I'm popular, but like I had over 100 different messages from people who I had impacted their life in maybe a small way, or a lot of people that I had no idea that I even mattered to them. And it really made me understand how important people are in your lives, how important having those people close to you is, because my whole life has been about me, myself, and I. And then when I met Jesus, I just added Jesus. And even Jesus needed, like, he had his relationship with God, but he also needed his core 3 and then his core 12 that were around him. And so, like, it was this moment for me that changed my life. Instead of living a life for this selfish Matt, living this life for Matt, I decided, hey, I'm going to take what value I have as a person and allow myself to be used in a way that's going to help others. And I'm going to put myself on a platform that's going to help others. I'm going to do whatever I can to help people, because realistically, I'm living off borrowed time. I thank God it's been a blessing that, like, I'm still here and that I'm still, rolling around. But like, it's realistically, it's borrowed time. Everything that goes on from every day now, it's like I wake up and it's like, this is kind of my moment, and this is my time to make a difference in somebody's life, because tomorrow's never guaranteed. And so that would be my next biggest one. And then I think Bradley talked about his last one, but my last one is just be graduating and coming to Tulsa again. And this whole COVID-19 season has been an amazing time of growth and of just challenge and learning. And so that's kind of to catch you up where I'm at now, just, hopefully being wherever God calls me and living in a palm of openness. And so,
And I remember, to go on the previous one, you didn't tell me about that situation. I had to hear it from one of our mutual best friends.
Yeah.
And I was so mad. And that's why you didn't tell me, because you're like, he's going to be so disappointed in me, stuff like that. But I think that's interesting. No, like I think this was like a really fun episode for us, because here's the thing, like our heart behind why we're doing this is not to ever pretend like we know stuff. Like in all reality, like we know like nothing. And the idea of like wisdom is knowing what you don't know, and like continually learning. And we want to like provide a place that because we want to learn more. Like we're like super hungry to learn more. And so the idea of this like episode is to like we want to like try to like level ourselves, because we want to provide a platform and a community of people who, like us, realize that we don't know it, we don't know everything, but we've been through a ton of stuff, big or small, that's kind of like changed us and helped us realize the importance of everything we've talked about: people, God, bad things, good things. And we're provide this platform of like learning, growing, and developing, that can, if it just helps one person, that and like we kind of did our job. And then we're going out of our way to at least just help one person. I think that's what's important.
Yeah,
and
we're not, like Bradley said, just to highlight it, like we're not here to say like, oh, we know everything, we like, you guys should listen to us, because like at the end of the day, the heart behind this podcast and the blog and just kind of the whole platform in general is that like we want to group together, because we realize that we can't do this alone, and we can't do this by ourselves. And so recognize that, man, there's people out there that need a community, that need their voice spoken, that need to they have something to say, and they're just waiting for people to listen. And we want to be that. We want to be that for you. We want to help you find your voice again.
Yeah.
And so
that's exactly right.
I really hope that people made it all the way this far, and you guys got to hear a little bit more about Bradley and I, and kind of our story together, and both of our stories separate, and how we kind of discovered this podcast together and this platform in general.
Yeah, definitely. No, and kind of looking forward next week. I said season finale. We're actually going to record it live, video it. It may not be like perfectly produced, but it's something that we've kind of like been thinking about. And we're gonna try it out, because season 2 is going to be a different. We have a few ideas of what we're going to do. Following, we want to kind of like expand our repertoire as far as learning goes. And one of our ideas, we want to do like a little nerdy podcast. We want to talk about, because we both love video games, we love movies and all that stuff. So we're gonna sit down and kind of talk about that kind of stuff, and like fantasy and all that kind of stuff. But we also want to be committed to like learning and growing and kind of sharing that development. And so as we conclude season 1, we want to record it, because as we move forward in our future ideas of podcasting, want to produce a lot more content. And this is really just like a trial run as we show you the tools that we've learned and kind of picked up that are going to start propelling us forward. So I really see this episode, I know it's like our defining moments in life, but like a defining moment is of like we want to commit to this, and if you're listening to this, that we want to commit to you, that we produce content that's valuable but also enjoyable and fun, and maybe provide an outlet to get away from the bad world that we live in,
Yeah, so, and tell us your defining moments. Let us know either in the comment section,
on Instagram,
Facebook. Like, we are on all platforms. Whatever you guys are listening to, like, let us know. We're excited, and again, we don't want to do this separate. We want to do this together as a community.
Yeah,
and so I hope you guys had as much fun as I did, because although I love just hearing myself talk, I love sharing my story, because like Bradley said, if it helps just one of you guys, like, it's amazing. And I would love to hear about those things. So if you guys please let me know.
Yeah, let us know. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We'll be on Twitter soon. Follow our own socials. We post on YouTube. We do it all.
Spotify.
We're technically on every single podcast platform. So there's some smaller ones out there that really I've never even seen. But some of the content we produce, it actually goes that direction. So if you're on, Anchor is another one, Buzzsprout, some podcasting platforms. We're on everything. So if you if you're interested, it's on literally any platform you could choose. So, yeah. And that's about it. That's about it. So that's going to wrap up episode 9 of the Workshop Podcast, which is season 1 from our unqualified experience. So be on the lookout for next week. Potentially the week after. In the next couple weeks, will be our season finale of the podcast series. We appreciate you listening. Thanks for listening to our crazy lives, and thanks for coming along. And we'll see you next time.
Catch you later.
Thank you for watching. Now let's get building.